have all gotten a yellow sheet that has your top 10 list on it. I'm going to just go quickly through. You need to know what kind of an emergency you need to face. So you need to know whether we're going to have a tornado or a hurricane or a flood. You need to be prepared for that. You need to know how to leave. You need to know whether you have to take a left, a right, a up, or down. You need to know your routes out of town before the emergency. You need to know how to get to a safe place safely. You need to know how to reconnect with your family. You may all be coming from different directions. You should have a relative or a friend out of town that everyone calls to let them know, let everybody else know where they are, so everybody knows where everybody else is, so everybody's accounted for. You need to have an emergency alert system. We don't have a real alert system in town the way the Midwest towns do, but have a NOAA radio available and listen to it. If there's a storm coming, listen to the radio. You need to know what to do if you're caught in an emergency away from home. Have an emergency kit in your car. A plan to meet other family members, and know what your school or business does for an emergency. Have a go bag and know how to use it. The little tips in this piece of paper that I'm giving you explain how to do each of these things. Remember friends and relatives that have special needs, whether they're infants, children, special needs persons. Keep them in mind and be sure that they have help. Prepare your pets. Do not leave home without them. Take them with you. Make sure you check to be sure hotels in your area where you might be traveling will take them, or whether there's a vet that you can leave them with, but do not leave them at home. If you're going to the shelter, we'll take care of them. Learn emergency skills. Take a first aid course. Learn CPR. Learn how to use a fire extinguisher. And the last one, find out how to help in your community. And one of the best ways to help in your community is to join TEMA. And I just happen to have some volunteer forms if anybody wants to join tonight. You can see me outside, and you can help your town that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirley.
Nothing's on here as it wanders around by itself.
Uh-oh. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, we do have a quorum, and so I will call this annual town meeting to order. First order of business is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think we have any scouts to lead us, so I guess Mr. Clark, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Mr. McNabb. All right, Mr. McNabb.
Somebody asked me to read this, yeah. I was asked to read this before town meeting. We would like to publicly recognize two individuals who are retiring after several years of service to the town of Townsend. Jeff Peduzzi has served on the planning board for more than 15 years, mostly as chairman, has provided support to additional committees, and actively participated in countless town meetings speaking on behalf of the planning board. Nick Tallheimer has served on the planning board and/or the Board of Selectmen and has been a member of several committees, including town properties, for over 12 years. The success of local governments like ours is dependent upon service provided by such volunteers, and Townsend has greatly benefited benefited from their dedication. Please express our thanks and appreciation to them. I just have one more thing. I would also like to welcome Gordon Clark to the Board of Selectmen as our newest member. And I would like to also thank Sue Licio for her many years of service to the board and various town committees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNabb. Now, I did neglect to mention that this is the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, for this annual town meeting. I think we also need to introduce the participants here. I'm John Barrett, the newly elected moderator, so bear with me. And I would like to acknowledge also the many years of service, which I've already done at the last meeting, but just want to remind people again of this sterling service by Gene Rahala over the past 16 years and ask for a hand for him. Kathleen Spofford is our town clerk to my left. And I'd ask everybody, because there's a couple of folks I'm not familiar with, if everyone on the Finance Committee could, well, there's Nancy Raposa, Jenny King, I'm sorry, Mary Letourneau, sorry Mary, Cindy King, Sam Grant, and Andrea Wood on the Finance Committee, Carolyn Smart, Colin McNabb, and Gordy Clark as the selectman, and Andrew Sheehan, our town administrator, and Brian Riley, town council. All right. I think I need to ask for a return of the warrant at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Townsend by posting up attested copies of the same at Memorial Hall, 272 Main Street at the center, West Townsend Fire Station, 460 Main Street in West Townsend, Police Communications Center, 70 Brookline Road, North Middlesex Regional High School, 19 Main Street, and Harbor Church, 80 Main Street, at least 7 days before the date of the meeting, as written within directed. Constable of Townsend, William Martin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, just a couple procedural matters just to review. I know everybody wants to jump into this, but we are going by town meeting time as our procedural Bible, so if there's any procedural questions that I can't answer, we'll refer to that and to town council. Please be recognized before you speak. Direct all your comments through the chair. All motions must be in writing and brought to the clerk. If a matter is finally voted, it may be reconsidered upon a majority vote if the motion is made for reconsideration this evening. If the meeting does go into a second night, an article which has been voted upon tonight may be only reconsidered upon a 9/10 vote at that later meeting. If a vote tally is questioned by 7 voters, the counters will be brought out to take an actual vote. If you're confused about any situation, please make a point of order and we'll try to straighten the issue out. If you wish to make a point of order, please stand in place, state that you wish to make a point of order, and wait. You may interrupt the speaker, but wait to be recognized. Similarly, if you wish to raise a point of privilege, please stand in place, state that you wish to make a point of privilege, and you may interrupt the speaker then as well. Just ask everybody to be courteous and keep applause to the minimum if we can. We'll get through this. I was just given some sage advice by Mr. Rahala, who was given this advice to him by Mr. West, that the moderator's chief job is to make the meeting go quickly. So, without further ado, since I've already failed that issue, we can turn to the warrant. Article 1. Where is it here now? Well, to see if the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint all town officers unless other provisions are made by the general laws, by town charter, or by vote of the town. Is there a motion?
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint all town officers unless other provisions are made by Massachusetts general law, by town charter, or by vote of the town.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? All right, motion made and seconded. Anything to be said? Not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to hear the reports of any committees, boards, commissions, etc., or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb.
I move that the town vote to hear reports of any committees, boards, commissions, etc.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Anything to be said? Not seeing any. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Unanimous. I'm finding that if you folks are out in the back, it's kind of shaded there, and I may not be able to see you if you raise your hand. So either come forward, or if you have a question, or if you want to comment about anything, wave your hand wildly, because I otherwise won't be able to see you with the lights. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to choose a committee of 3 West Townsend residents to serve as members of the James H. Tucker Fund in accordance with the bequest for the sole purpose to keep the curbing, gravestones, and monuments in good order, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb.
I move that the town vote to appoint Kenneth Gherkin, Pamela Hammond, and Michael Marchand to serve as members of the James H. Tucker Fund Committee in accordance with the bequest, its sole purpose being to keep the curbing, gravestones, and monuments in good order.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, unanimous. Okay, Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of offsetting the fiscal year 15 snow and ice deficit under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 31D, or take any other action in relation thereto. Motion?
Mr. Moderator, I would move
Ms. Martin.
that the town vote to transfer from surplus revenue the sum of $175,000 for the purpose of offsetting the FY15 snow and ice deficit under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D.
Motion made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Any discussion? I think we know why. All right, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, it's unanimous. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of paying prior fiscal year bills in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 64, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town take no action.
All right, motion to take no action has been made and seconded. Anything to be said? All right, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Take no action. Article 6, see if the town will vote to authorize the inspectional services revolving account in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53.5, to which will be credited revenues collected from the payment of fees paid by the North Middlesex Regional High School Building Committee or its contractors, subcontractors, or vendors, which funds shall be expended for expenditures associated with inspections of the North Middlesex Regional High School Building Project to be authorized by the Building Commissioner, of which expenditures shall not exceed an amount to be inserted in fiscal year 15 or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb.
I move that the town vote to authorize the inspectional services revolving account in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, to which will be credited revenues collected from the payment of fees paid by North Middlesex Regional High School Building Committee or its contractors, subcontractors, or vendors, which funds shall be expended for expenditures associated with inspection of North Middlesex Regional High School Building Project to be authorized by the Building Commissioner, of which expenditures should not exceed $40,000 in FY15.
The motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of blank for the purpose of purchasing a new copier, scanner, printer for Town Hall, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Smart?
I would move that the town vote to transfer from surplus revenue the sum of $8,000 for the purpose of purchasing a new copier, scanner, printer for Town Hall.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Could I have that amount again?
$8,000.
8,000, thank you. All right, anything to be said? All right, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, unanimous. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of purchasing a new postage machine for Town Hall, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town take no action.
Motion's been made and seconded to take no action on Article 8. Is anything to be said? All those in favor of taking no action say aye. Those opposed say no. That's unanimous, no action. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of to be inserted for the purpose of supplementing the Board of Health revolving account to offset the cost of chipping the wood pile, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb?
I move that the town take no action on Article 9.
Second.
Motion to take no action has been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? All those in favor of taking no action, please say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, it's unanimous. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of providing training for employees and supervisory personnel, or take any action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Smart.
I would move that the town take no action.
Motion made and seconded, take no action. Anything to be said? All those in favor of taking no action, please say aye. Those opposed say no. It's unanimous, taking no action. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury various sums to supplement the fiscal year 15 operating budget, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town take no action.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to take no action. Is there anything to be said? Not hearing any. All those in favor of taking no action, please say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, unanimous. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise the sum of, to be inserted, from fire EMS expense to fire EMS wages, or take any other action in relation thereto. Yes, Mr. Clark. Oh, I'm sorry. Chief. Okay, motion made, seconded, to take no action. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of supplementing the Conservation Commission's land fund, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb?
I move that the town take no action on Article 13.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take no action on Article 13. Is there anything to be said? Not seeing any. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the ayes have it. Taking no action on Article 13. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of funding road improvements, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb?
I move that the town take no action on Article 14.
Is there a motion Is there a second to the motion? All right. The motion's been made and seconded to take no action on Article 14. Is there anything to be said? It seems there is.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. McNabb.
Mr. Sheehan, why are we taking no action on this article?
Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When we you've no doubt noticed already that we've taken no action on a number of articles. When we put the warrant together, we start back in like January, February. So we put together a bunch of funding articles that we need to move on. Some of them because of the severity of the winter that we had, and then the amount of the snow and ice deficit that we had this year. The board decided to push off until the fall or some later date. A couple of the one that the chief mentioned a few minutes ago, transferring wages or funds within the fire department, turned out not to be necessary. But for the most part, the reason that we're taking no action on most of these is that because of the snow and ice deficit, we didn't want to use up all of our free cash at this time. We wanted to put these purchases off until a later date.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Anything further to be said? Chief?
No, not chief.
Oh, all right.
Todd Melanson, 79 Clement Road.
Oh, okay.
You're transferring from enterprise to operating for the water department. It's not tax dollars, it's not money that can be spent on snow removal, school, or anything else. Can you explain specifically why you're not doing it from the water department, the enterprise account?
Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We will be doing that one, Todd. That is a later article. The one that's in front of us now is 14, which is for road improvements. At this point, there's no debate about the need for road improvements, but the board thought that it was prudent to defer this till the fall. We will be taking action on the one having to do with the enterprise, though.
Okay. All right. Comments come on the Article 14. Is there anything further to be said?
Andy, that was the one that was read. The water department was the one that was read that said take no action.
No.
Sir, I just read Article 14 to see if the town would vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of to be inserted for the purpose of funding road improvements or take any other action in relation thereto. That's Article 14. Up there in the back.
Hi, Margaret Genoder, 83 Maplewood Drive. I am quite concerned about the fact that the town does not want to spend any money on road improvements this summer when we actually have a building season for roads. So can somebody please explain that to me? Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the article. Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Meg, it's not that we don't want to spend money on roads. The board is committed to making this investment. However, last year and again this year, the town received more state funding for road improvements than we have in the last several years as a result of increased Chapter 90 money and the winter recovery or pothole repair money we received last year and again this year. So the board thought that it was in light of the additional funding that we received that we could afford to put off this appropriation until the fall.
I have to say I kind of disagree because I think the roads are a mess, but thank you for that explanation.
Okay, the motion is to take no action on Article 14. Is there anything else to be said? All right, I don't see any. Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of taking no action on Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. I'll kind of early to start bringing the counters, but I will try that one more time. All those in favor of taking no action on Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Okay. Counters will have to come forward. Okay, all right, everyone, just so everybody, if you could maintain the decorum of the hall so the counters can do their job now. the counters, just so you know how we're counting this, Mr. Stonefield and, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones are going to, how are we going to count this section here and the stage, or the Selectmen and Finance Committee. And unfortunately, Herc and Mr. Fortin and Mr. Rideout will count the middle section. And could I get 2 more volunteers? I think we got so many people here on this side. Yeah, right there. And I don't know, Fred, would you, or ma'am, would you be willing to be a counter? Okay, if you could come forward. Okay. All right, everyone, thank you. We'll come to order. All right, all those who are in favor of taking no action on Article 14, please stand and be counted. Okay, everyone sit down then, unless you want to vote no on taking no action. All right, all those who want to vote no on Article 14 to take no action, please stand. Six. All right, folks, the tally is 79 in favor of taking no action, 36 opposed. Therefore, the motion to take no action does carry. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted for the purpose of purchasing water meters to upgrade older water meters within the distribution system. Said appropriation to come from the Water Department Enterprise Fund or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Mr. Rayfuse.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll be the one to break the cycle. I move that the town vote to transfer from Water Department retained earnings the sum of $30,000 for the purpose of purchasing water meters to upgrade old water meters within the distribution system. Said appropriation to come from Water Department Enterprise Fund.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 15. Is there anything to be said? Ms. Wood.
I'd like to know why this just isn't in your operating budget as a replacement cost.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rayfuse, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We could put it in the operating part of the budget. However, I wanted, in consultation with town accountant, I wanted to create an account where we could add to it every year. If we didn't use it all, carry the amount forward and put more into that account the following year, since this could be an ongoing project for 2 to 3, 4 more years.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Is there anything else to be said? It appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 15, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Majority vote. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted, collected from the fiscal year 14 fire prevention fine receipts pursuant to the general laws, Chapter 148A, Section 5, to a fund for training for eligible personnel or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Clark. I'm sorry. Chief.
I move to see if the town will vote to transfer from surplus revenue the sum of $300 collected from FY14 fire prevention fine receipts pursuant to general law, Chapter 148A, Section 5, to fund for training for eligible personnel.
Motion's been made and seconded on Article 16. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 16, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to authorize the fire EMS revolving account in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to which will be credited revenues collected from the community events and fire watches, which funds shall be expended for expenditures associated with, to be inserted, to be authorized by the fire EMS chief, of which expenditures shall not exceed an amount to be inserted in fiscal year 16, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr.
Chief.
Moderator, I move to see if the town will vote to authorize a fire EMS revolving account in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to which will be credited revenues collected from community events in fire watches, which funds shall be expended for expenditures associated with said community events in fire watches, to be authorized by the fire and EMS chief, or which expenditures shall not exceed $5,000 in fiscal year 16.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 17. Is there anything to be said? Mrs. Wood?
What's a fire watch?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Chief.
On occasion, the businesses in particular may have a failure of a fire alarm system or a fire alarm sprinkler system, and within the code to remain open, we may have to post a fire watch. They are then responsible for that cost, and this is a revolving account, so when we receive that money, we can immediately, or prior to receiving that money, we can pay our personnel for that time.
Okay, comments come on the question. Mrs. Smart?
So this is very similar to the agency fund that you have where you do details at the high school and that pays the personnel. I'm curious why you're doing it with the revolving fund versus the agency fund like we do for the details.
Exactly. We do details for the high school for the sporting events, and we do details for the circus that comes to town once a year. Currently, we do not have a revolving account to pay our personnel for those details. Therefore, they have to wait until we are paid several weeks to pay them for the time that they put in.
So you're going to put that revenue in this revolving account as well so that the folks can get paid right away versus waiting to bill it out and have it come back?
Correct. And it actually gives us the ability to pay them when there's no money in the account. So it goes into the red, and then when we receive the money, it goes back into the revolving account. So they're not waiting to get paid.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mrs. Wood?
Are your costs higher than your normal? I know that the rate for the games at the school for the EMTs is higher. Are these the fire watches and other community events, the circus, beyond the pay rate? Is it high? Is it a higher rate as well?
It's higher, but it's a fixed detail rate based on overtime.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Is there anything further to be said? Not seeing any. It appears we're ready to vote on Article 17. All those in favor of the motion on Article 17, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Okay, now, Article 19. Does everyone... 18, I'm sorry. I'll take my glasses off to read it. Article 18. I'm going to read the preliminary paragraph, but unless there's an objection, does everyone have the handout for Article 18? Does anyone not have it? Put it that way. Okay. All right. Article 18. To see if the town will vote to continue to authorize revolving funds for certain town departments under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53.5, for fiscal year 2016, beginning July 1st, with the specified receipts credited to each fund, the purposes for which each fund may be spent, the amount annual expenditure shall not exceed, and the entity authorized to expend from the fund, as outlined in the following table, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator?
Is there a motion? Mrs. Smart.
I move that the town vote to continue to authorize revolving funds for certain town departments under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53.5, for FY 2016 beginning July 1st, with the specified receipts credited to each fund, the purpose for which each fund may be spent, the amount annually expenditures shall not exceed, and the entity authorized to expend from the fund as outlined in the following table. Board of Health revolving account. Authorized to spend fund, Board of Health. Receipts credited, fees from recyclable items, spending purposes, operating costs for recycling center, landfill, curbside pickup, recycling center capital, in the amount of $10,500. Recreation revolving account. Authorized to spend, Recreation Commission. Receipts credited, fees from recreation programs, spending purposes, operating costs, and capital needs for recreation programs, in the amount of $52,000. Facilities Maintenance Revolving Account, authorized to spend fund, Town Administrator. Fees from rental of Townsend Meeting Hall, operating costs and capital needs of the Townsend Meeting Hall, operating costs and capital needs of the Cemetery Department, in the amount of $4,000.
The
No,
point
I read-
of
I'm
order,
sorry.
Mrs. Smart,
Yeah.
if you could clarify that?
Yeah, it's fees from the rental of the Townsend Meeting Hall, operating costs and capital needs of the Townsend Meeting Hall in the amount of $4,000.
I believe the motion is actually for amounts at variance with what you see in the printed
Oh, is that
form.
what, yes, that's been reduced because you only authorized what's been actually collected, so the motion is going to read a different figure. My apologies. That's all that's in there to be authorized to spend, so.
Okay, do you want to continue?
Cemetery cost interment revolving account, authorized to spend fund is the Cemetery and Parks Commissioner, receipts credited fees from burials, spending purposes, operating costs and capital needs of the Cemetery Department, spending limit $28,000. Fire alarm maintenance revolving account, authorized to spend funds is the Chief of the Fire EMS Department, annual fire alarm maintenance fees, connect fees, and fine assessments, spending purposes, operating capital costs for town's portion of the fire alarm system, spending limit $4,000. Animal Care Program revolving account, authorized to spend funds is the Animal Control Officer. Fees and other receipts from owners of animals requiring emergency medical treatment while in the care and custody of the town. Spending purpose is board care and veterinary expenses associated with animals found abandoned or injured. Spending limit is $1. Inspectional Services revolving account, authorized to spend fund is the Building Commissioner. Fees paid by the North Middlesex Regional High School Building Committee for the North Middlesex Regional High School project. Spending purpose is inspector wages, stipends, and expenditures associated with the NMRHS project in the amount of $75,000.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. As people, I think, will understand that the amounts that were in the handout were not identical to the amounts read in the motion. So unless there's any questions specifically about that. Why don't I repeat all of them, if you don't mind? For the Board of Health revolving account, the amount is $10,500. For the Recreation revolving account, the amount is $52,000. For the Facilities Maintenance revolving account, the amount is $4,000. The Cemetery Cost of Interment revolving account, it's $28,000. For the Fire Alarm Maintenance revolving account is $4,000. And for the Animal Care Program revolving account is $1. The Inspectional Services revolving account is $75,000. Okay, now, I put my glasses on, see the hall. Is there anything to be said? I see a gentleman up in the back, Mr. LeQuire.
Yes. Why is it the Board of Health went from 22 to 10,000?
Question comes on the motion. Is someone able to answer that? Mrs. Smart?
Jim, I'm assuming, and we can check with the account, that that's all that was available to spend? That's all that was collected during the fiscal year?
Could Mr. Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jim, there's only $10,700 in that fund. Less money has been going into that fund over the years, so we couldn't authorize the higher amount that we've had in the past.
Okay, comments come on the motion. I'm sorry, I recognize that gentleman first. Did you see him? Could you identify yourself, sir? Question comes on the motion. I won't try to, Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, the inspector is a full-time salaried employee of the town. The electrical, gas, and plumbing inspectors are part-time stipend employees. Board of Selectmen voted to provide additional compensation for those employees related to the high school construction project, because of the additional hours that would be taken in order to do the inspections for this facility.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Mr.
Wouldn't the additional cost should be covered by the permit fees that are going to be bought by the contractors to do the work? Why are we appropriating $75,000 of town money when it should be coming from the contractors?
Mr. Sheehan.
I apologize for not making this clear. The revolving account will take in the fees, allow us to pay the compensation out, so there won't be any expenditure of taxpayer money. It's coming from the contractor, from the fees that he pays, and just being funneled through this account to the inspectors. I shouldn't use the word funneled through this account, but you know what I mean.
So we gave them a raise because they're going to do their job just at different times during the course of the project?
Yeah, there'll be additional.
Question comes on the motion. Mr. Sheehan.
Yes, there'll be additional hours and time spent on the project, and so there's additional compensation being given.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Gentleman there. I know there was somebody else that wanted to speak. I'm sorry that you stood down, but go ahead.
My name is Mike Foster. I live at 59 Ash Street. I know the town's been very frugal, but we only have a buck to take care of animals. I don't get it.
Okay, comment comes on the article. Who wants to field this? I got a lot of hands. Mrs. Smart or Mr. Sheehan?
That's all that was collected last year, Todd. She has a budget within the operating budget that can take care of animals, but the thought process was when we created that if she had an animal that needed veterinary care, that the person would have to pay for that, and we'd deposit that in there and be able to pay the bill.
Okay, comments come. The motion, Mr. Stonefield. All right, motion's been made and seconded to move the question. This will cut off debate. It requires a 2/3 vote. So all those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. I would rule that there's more than 2/3 to cut off debate. Therefore, the motion carries. Is there... so we can vote. Right. Article 18. All those in favor of the revolving fund appropriation allowances in Article 18. Is there anybody who needs the motion read again? Okay. All right. All those in favor of Article 18, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer from receipts reserved for appropriation accounts in fiscal year 2016 beginning July 1st, amounts outlined in the following table, or take any action in relation thereto. And unless someone objects, I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but ask for a motion. Is there any objection to my doing that? Okay, then is there a motion?
I move the town vote to appropriate and transfer from receipts reserved for appropriation accounts for FY 2016 beginning July 1st, amounts as outlined in the following table. Line 1, cemetery sale of lot fund. Supplement operating costs and capital needs of the cemetery department, $6,300. Line 2, Comcast government excess account. Supplement funding for operating costs of the MIS department, amount $30,000. Line 3, Title 5 MWPAT receipts reserved account. Supplement funding for repayment of debt owed to Mass Water Pollution Abatement Trust, amount $27,538. Line number 4, West Townsend Reading Room receipts reserved account. Supplement funding for operating costs of the reading room, amount $2,900. Line 5, ambulance receipts reserved account. Supplement funding for operating costs of emergency medical services, amount $250,000.
Motion's been made and seconded on Article 19. Is there anything to be said? Not seeing any. Appears we are ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 19, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, unanimous. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $4,000 for the purpose of funding the assessor's fiscal year 16 periodic inspections and property data verification program as mandated by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, Bureau of Local Assessments, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Oh. Mrs. Schifrin. Sorry, expecting it from down here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to transfer from surplus revenue the sum of $4,000 for the purpose of funding the assessor's fiscal year 16 periodic inspections and property data verification program as mandated by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, Bureau of Local Assessments.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said on Article 20? Not appearing to be any. All those in favor of Article 20, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the amount to be inserted for the purpose of paying fiscal year 16 debt service or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. McNabb.
I move that the town vote to transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the amount of $172,247,000 for the purpose of paying FY16 debt service.
Motion's been made and seconded on Article 21. Is there anything to be said? Mr. McNabb?
$172,247.
And not seeing any further debate, appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 21, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay. Two-thirds, right. All right, this requires a two-thirds vote. I did hear some opposition. I'd like to do it again because I want to make sure that we do have a two-thirds approval for this article. So all those in favor of Article 21, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury such sums that may be necessary to defray the charges and expenses of the town for fiscal year 2016 pursuant to a detailed budget totaling amount to be inserted, or take any other action in relation thereto. All right, now all of you have the proposed budget, I trust. See if I do. What we have traditionally done is that we will take each section of the budget to see if there is any questions or issues about that section of the budget, vote on that section, and then move on. Finally vote a final budget at the end. So, does everyone have the handout for the general budget? Yep, fiscal year 2016 general fund operating budget, Article 22. Okay. What I will do is I will just read so we make sure we have the final number for each section. Right now, the general government amount is page 5. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Total general government is the amount, to be clear, the amount that we are voting on, unless there's a motion to vary it, is the amount recommended by the selectmen. That last column. So that amount is $1,138,436. Is there anything to be said on general government? Okay. Mr. LeQuire?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move motion to operating budget for municipal curbside solid waste and recycling from 619 back to 644, which was originally the budget we had to work with.
Okay, what number is that, Mr. LeQuire?
I haven't found that yet.
Is that in general government? Okay, let's just take general government. When we get to, I think it's health and sanitation, we'll take that up, Mr. LeQuire. Thank you. All right, general government. Anything further be said? The amount we're voting on is $1,138,436. All right. All right, there doesn't appear to be any questions. All those in favor of the general government amount in Article 22, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, it's unanimous. Public safety is the next category. And I believe the total is on page 7. The total amount being recommended is $2,742,481. Is there anything to be said on public safety? Okay, not seeing any questions or concerns. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the public safety amount, $2,742,481, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Education. The total on education is on page 8, including North Middlesex School, Regional School District, and the Neshoba Technical School District. The total is $10,468,219. Is there anything to be said? I don't see any, so it appears we're ready to vote on education. All those in favor of the amount of $10,468,219 on education, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Nay. The ayes have it. Next section, streets and highways. Total is on the same page, page 8. The total for streets and highways is $681,017. Anything to be said? Not seeing any. I will ask for a vote. All those in favor of $681,017, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. So, yes. Okay. All right. Come back to order. We just had to take a little break there to change the tape. All right. The next item before us. All right, everyone. Okay, let's come back together. All right, the next item in the budget is solid waste services. Begins on page 8 and continues on to page 9. An total amount of $638,598. Is there anything to be said?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. LeQuire.
Motion to move the operating budget for the municipal curbside solid waste and recycling from the 619 back to the 644 that was originally proposed.
Okay. A motion has been made to amend the solid waste services budget and seconded to $644,000. And that will change the total, if it passes, by how much? 25,000? Thank you. Actually, it looks like the amount, if this passes, would be the amount in the requested amount, which is $663,598. Is that correct, Mr. Leclerc?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to amend the budget on solid waste services. Is there anything further to be said? And he's smart. Mrs. Smart?
I also wanted to point out under Neshoba assessments, under Department 522, that is just a clerical error. The Board of Health expense should read $20,219, and the nursing expense should be $9,051. It won't change the bottom line or any numbers, though.
Okay. All right. Which, that's under Human Services, I think? Okay, we haven't got there quite yet.
Sorry about that.
All right, Mr. McNabb?
The question I have is, how do you propose we pay for that increase?
We paid from that in place from the same place the 619 came from.
Okay. All right, comments come on the motion. Mr. Toro, is it?
Yes. I'd like to know why the selectmen reduced it, and I also have another comment. I think at the last town meeting, we reduced our barrels down by 1, so I don't know why they need extra money, but I'd like to know why the selectmen chose to reduce the fund. If we're reducing our trash, why do they need the extra money?
Question comes on the article, or on the budget. Mr. McNabb?
When the assessment was redone for the school system, our Townsend's amount went up by about $250,000. So we had to find cuts to close that hole in the budget.
Okay. Did you get a motion written? Mr. Leclerc will need that motion in writing to amend the budget. All right, there's been a motion to amend the budget with respect to solid waste services. Anything else to be said? The bottom line, the total amount would be, if the motion passes, would be $663,598. Okay. That's the amount if the motion is approved.
The amendment.
That's right. I mean, the amendment to the motion, right. Mr. Snaith?
Jonathan Snaith, could you tell me why the $25,000 increase that you're asking for? I might have missed that in the beginning.
The $25,000 is not an increase. That was the original proposal that was presented to us at the Selectmen's meeting on TV under camera.
All right, comments come on the budget. Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When the instructions went out to departments, boards, and committees back in, I think it was right before New Year's, what we asked everybody to submit in their budgets was salary and wage increases consistent either with collective bargaining agreements, union contracts, or 2.5% for non-union employees. And for expenses, non-wage items, we asked for level funding of their fiscal 15 budgets. The fiscal 15 amount for solid waste for curbside was $629,000. The Board of Health in their budget request put in for $644,000. As Selectman McNabb mentioned, we had a $250,000 deficit that we had to close. That was one of the items that that we looked at. It was above the amount in their in the amount for fiscal 15, higher than the instructions from the Board of Selectmen, and we thought that given the continuing reduction in tonnage for curbside collection, that the solid waste budget could go down, still provide same level of service that has been provided. The board was under the impression that, or was interested in providing funding that would provide the same service, weekly collection of trash, biweekly recycling, system that we've had in place for a number of years, without providing additional resources. The next article on the warrant, Article 23, is a supplemental appropriation that, if approved by the town meeting, would provide additional funding for additional solid waste services, such as recycling toters for every household, trash toters for every household, other collection items. So the reduction is actually only $10,000 below what the board asked for in its original instructions.
Okay, comments come on the budget. Ms. Lizio.
Mr. Moderator, I have two questions, one for the Board of Selectmen or Andy. The total that we're looking at now in terms of recommended amounts, including this one from the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom, does that represent a balanced budget?
Question comes on the budget. Mr. Sheehan?
It represents a balanced budget, Sue, with the use of about $60,000 from the stabilization fund.
Mr. Moderator?
Ms. Lizio.
My second question is therefore to the Board of Health, if this line item were to increase, where would that money come from? Because we're saying on all of the other ones where the money is coming from. I'd just like an answer to that.
All right, question comes on the budget, and I don't know if Mr. Leclerc or Finance Committee can speak to the issue.
I would reiterate on this once again. This is the number that was given to us by the selectmen on tape, on camera, and we were never notified of any other number until about 5 weeks ago, and we had already finished the negotiations after we put this contract out for bid. And 619 is not adequately going to do it. It has to be the 644.
All right. Mrs. Smart.
We're using $59,971 out of regular stabilization to balance the budget. So if this passed with the amendment, that additional amount would have to come out of stabilization as well.
All right, Mrs. Lizio.
I would just like to know what the recommendations of both the Boards of Selectmen and the Finance Committee is on taking this adding this additional amount and taking it from stabilization.
All right, question comes on the budget. Someone from Finance speak to the matter?
The Finance Committee recommended that the budget be accepted as presented. That's what we recommended. The entire budget as presented is what we agree. We recommended. We didn't recommend any additional changes, including the Board of Health we did not vote to go along with the higher number. We went along with the 619 for this particular article.
Mr. McNabb, thank you.
On the 14th of April, the Board of Selectmen voted in favor of the budget as presented.
But they never told the Board of Health.
Please be recognized, Mr. Leclerc. All right, is there anything further to be said on this motion to amend the budget? Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to reiterate, the instructions from the Board of Selectmen was for level services of non-wage items. At no point did the board say that 644,000 was the curbside collection contract or appropriation amount.
Okay, comments come on the budget. Mrs. Smart.
Jim, could you tell me what, I know you recently sent it out to bid, are you looking for the additional amount because the amounts have come back on the bid higher?
The amounts came back extremely high, and the vendor we're working with happens to still be Shaw, who's been very faithful to us. And he's not going to go for a one-year extension on this. He wants a real contract. And this is going to be services to this town that we need. We got a new school being built, education for the children, and having the totas included in this contract is going to keep Townsend much cleaner and keep all the trash out of our wetlands, streams, and rivers.
How much would it be if we just continued on with the same service we had? Did that come back as well?
I can't comment on it. I cannot comment on that at this time because this is the number we're working with.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made to move the question. This will cut off debate on the motion to amend. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it. We have cutting off debate, and now we'll vote on the motion to amend the solid waste services budget, basically adding $25,000 to that budget, which would make a total of $663,598. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, the amendment does not carry. There is before you motion, the solid waste services budget, and the amount of $638,598. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of that amount, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. All right, the ayes have it. Human Services. The amount begins on page 9, and the total is on page 10. Total Human Services in an amount of $350,548. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote on this one. Is there? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to reiterate the point that Ms. Smart made a couple of minutes ago, on the middle of page 9 under the Neshoba assessments, which is Department 522, those two sums in the far right column, 9,051 and 20,219, are in incorrect order. They should be reversed. So for the Board of Health expenses, it should be 20,219. For the nursing expenses, it should be 9,051. There's no change to the bottom line.
Okay, if everyone would make a note of that. Any questions? All right, I think we're ready to vote on Human Services then. All those in favor of the total amount for Human Services in the amount of $350,548, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, it's unanimous. Culture and Recreation begins on page 10 and ends on page 10. Total for Culture and Recreation is $253,327. Is there anything to be said? Yes.
Alice Kennedy, Recreation Commission. I make a motion to amend line item 630, Personal Services, to read $20,400.
Yeah, could you repeat that, Alice? That was
Okay.
really fast.
I make a motion to amend line item 630, Personal Services, to read $20,400.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded to amend the line item on recreation for personal services, basically restoring $20,400 for that item. Is there anything to be said? Mr. McNabb.
I'd like to hear from the FinCom about this, on this item.
As presented in the last department, or the last section, we voted to go along with the recommended budget amount and not to make any changes, including Recreation's request for the $20,000. We did discuss recreation. They did come to our meetings, and we did not agree to increase that line item at all. We, again, recommend to remain the budget as presented.
Okay, Ms. Kennedy.
One, we were never given any final decision by either FinCom or Selectmen that they were going to zero us out, though we knew they were going to. But we're here tonight to ask for your support. We believe and hope that you agree with us that Townsend Recreation provides vital services, classes, and activities for all ages of the community. We're asking for your support to have the town pay a portion of the Recreation Director's salary in the amount of $20,400. Currently, the Recreation Director is the only town employee that is not funded by the town. Okay, all other employees of Townsend, whether full or part-time, are paid by town funds. In 2009, the Recreation Commissions met with FinCom to discuss giving up our funding on a temporary basis. We agreed with the understanding that we would be funded again in a couple of years. To date, the town still doesn't fund us, but requires us to follow guidelines for wages and employment. We're simply asking that the town pay for the director's salary as they pay for all other employees. Currently, the director uses her own car, gas, phone, computer, home office, and her home for storage. Monies in our accounts are going to go towards furnishing an office with necessary equipment and materials required. In a recent meeting with the schools, including the superintendent, an offer of space for an office in Pepper was made, so that we'll have some place to kind of call home. Over the last several years, the town has forced the Recreation Board to go on the matrix pay scale for our employees. We hire several teenagers over the summer for the summer recreation program. These positions are part-time, temporary positions, yet we're forced to give them raises if they return. We feel it should be our decision factoring in experience and performance and not the pay scale that determines their rate of pay. We often do rehire, as the counselors that we have that come back are awesome and they have a real connection with the kids that participate in the program. New hires are also required to have a physical by the town's choice of a physician. The town will not accept physicals from their primary physicians, which are much more thorough. They require a drug test because they're working with children, and we agree with that. But if the town would accept the primary physical and we just had to send them for drug testing, the cost would be significantly lower. Both the raises and the cost of physicals put an extra burden on our budget. And because of these enforcements, we have to increase the cost of the summer program significantly, which rules out a lot of kids that can come to the program because of the cost. So no support for a director's salary, a forced extreme pay scale for temporary part-time employees, and a dictated town physical have taken a toll on our budget. So I'd just like to thank you for listening and hope that you'll vote to have the town pay our director's salary like they do for all other employees. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the budget. Second. Okay, well, I think we had a second. All right, anything else to be said? I believe there is someone approaching the mic.
Hi. Leanne Jackson, 1 Birch Lane. I was just concerned with, where is this money going to come from, the $20,000?
Yeah, can you speak closer?
The $20,000 extra dollars, I'm wondering where it's going to come from.
All right, question comes on the budget. Mr. Sheehan?
No funding source was identified, as we talked about earlier. We had a $250,000 deficit that we closed earlier this year. We had to refuse funding for a number of departments in order to close that deficit, even after rejecting the funding for the Library, Council on Aging, Recreation Commission, and a number of others, solid waste, as we talked about earlier. We were still in a deficit position, and that's why we're relying on stabilization to the tune of about $60,000. So if this was funded, there's no funding source identified, I don't believe, in the motion, and it would put us further into a deficit position.
I just wondered also historically how the director's been paid.
Question comes on the budget. Mr. Sheehan?
The directors, all the wages and expenses of the Recreation Commission are paid for out of the Recreation Commission revolving account. That was approved earlier under Article 18. There are ample funds in that revolving account to provide the compensation for the director and also for the expenses associated with the Recreation Commission. The issue of the physicals, the pre-employment physicals, that was raised earlier, I think a year ago, when there was an influx of new employees for the Recreation Commission. I think the total cost of the pre-employment physicals was only in the order of $600 or $700. So it's not. I don't think you can call that a budget buster in this case.
Mr. Sheen, if I could get a point of clarification, as I'm not sure, I didn't quite catch it. If this motion passes, what will the town meeting have to do to raise the funds? If you can answer, Mrs. Smart.
I'll defer to council on this. I think the use of stabilization would have to increase. I don't know if that makes the quantum for the amendment a 2/3 vote rather than a simple majority, or if that would simply be reflected in the final vote. But I'll ask council on that.
Mr. Riley.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. In my opinion, that would not require a 2/3 vote on this amendment, but there does need to be the funding source identified, whether it's through raise and appropriated taxation, stabilization, or some transfer or other. That does need to be part of the vote.
Okay, so did we get a motion, a written motion, Madam Clerk? Okay. Well, on the amendment? Okay. Does it identify a source? Funding? Okay. I'm sorry, but what's your name again?
Leanne Jackson. So I just had a concern.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I just had a concern about this. The program that we had voted on it earlier, and it said that in the revolving fund there was $52,000 for this program. Historically, I believe that the program itself has always been self-funded. What I was wondering was why, I know if there's just $600, like Mr. Sheehan said, for the actual expenses for the rec employees, and we didn't see a huge difference in anything. I didn't hear them say anything about, what has increased with the rec program. So I was just wondering, why all of a sudden this year, this fiscal year, is the rec program, asking to have us pay part of the director's salary. The other thing that I also wanted to comment on was that I had watched the selectmen's meeting when they talked about this, and one of the things that they talked about, and I remembered from when we were going over the school budgeting and stuff, was that in fiscal year 2009, the rec had a revolving fund balance of $90,000. In 2010, they had a $96,000 balance. In 2011, they had a $97,000 balance and some odd. 2012, it was $89,000, and now they're at $52,000. The last 3 years, 2012, they spent, the ratio spending to the receipts that they had was 119%. In 2013, it was 127%. In 2014, it was 108%. So what that tells me is that if I was at home and I was paying my bills, that if I was getting paid a certain amount and I was at 127%, I would be paying more than what I had to spend. And I just feel that to go in that amount of years from $97,000 in 2011 to $50,000, that's almost half of the amount that the rec had in their revolving fund. And I personally, as a taxpayer and a member of this town, feel that the program itself needs to fund itself a little bit better.
Okay. Comments come on the budget. Maintain the decorum, please, and not sure, I think Mrs. Wood had her hand up first, but.
Last year, they came for the salary as well. This isn't the first time we've heard of this. Several years ago, they raised some money, and they wanted to put a volleyball court by the library. Nobody involved in the library and associated with the library wanted it there, and instead they repaired the tennis court, a basketball court, changed the water, and did some things over at the middle school, for which the recreation department paid $20,000. That's where your big expense went. They weren't involved with that. That wasn't their plan, but they had to give that up. And it wasn't reckless spending. Thank you.
I'd just like to comment.
Question, if you don't mind, Mrs. Smart?
And just to clarify, historically, we did fund the director's position. It was cut 07, 08, I don't know the exact date, because we had some mid-year cuts and we were looking to cut money, and they had built up money through their fundraising programs. And we asked them, we told them we'd review it in a few years. So this isn't, so they were able to build up money, and that's why it's starting to go back down, because they don't have that funding for their rec assistant anymore. The other thing too I think folks need to be aware of is the fact that she has to do everything out of her house. The town doesn't supply her with anything. She doesn't have an office, she doesn't have a computer unless she does it herself, and she's not reimbursed for any mileage or anything.
Comments come on the budget. Mrs. Lizio?
Because I was part of the budget process, I'd just like to remind folks here that this is a matter of prioritization. We're looking at this point in time, a balanced budget. If this increase happens, we're taking a little bit more out of stabilization than we would have wanted to do. We actually don't want to take anything out, but we don't have much choice. In 2014, the Library Children's Program serviced over 5,000 children. In this operating budget session, the library asked for an increase in staff hours that would have amounted to only $26,000. Because of the budget deficit, their request was denied. The senior center services approximately 350 seniors, and the number of people over 60 keeps growing. It's approximately 1,800 right now. The Council on Aging asked for an increase in hours for the director to be able to dedicate more time to finding new funding sources. They also wanted to get back an outreach worker at 5 hours a week. However, the total $5,000 request was cut from the operating budget to balance the budget. Recreation has approximately $52,000 in their revolving fund today. The revolving fund does not come from our taxes or our savings account, which is the stabilization fund. It comes from their program fees. Why would we want to pay for this out of our taxes or our savings? What's fair is fair. Everyone is making do with what they have and looking at their expenses to maintain services to the town. Our stabilization fund is our savings account, and it could be used in the future to help level out our tax increases that are ahead. Recreation has the funds. They simply need to live within their means and find more creative ways to do it, just like everyone else is doing.
Okay, comments come on the budget question. I'm not sure. Okay.
Mr. Normington, I'm glad former Selectman Lizio pointed out that fair is fair, because town employees should be employed and paid for by the town. Looking around this hall, I'm probably the closest in age to the people who use the Recreation Commission by some considerable years. Yes, young people aren't here to speak on behalf of the Recreation Commission because they're all a lot younger than we are. We do have a tax burden to pay, but that is fair. We all earn money, we all have real estate, we all pay taxes. Young people deserve a break as much as everyone else in this town does, and town employees should be paid for by this town.
What's your point of order?
He is indeed, and he's entitled to be recognized.
Okay,
Yes,
I
he
could
does.
not tell, sir. If you are a visitor, you should be sitting down here. Sorry if I didn't make that clear sooner. And if you wish to speak, we have to ask the permission of the floor.
Well, let's say I pay my taxes in this town, and taxation with representation, I think,
Well,
should be
sir, you're out
recognized.
of order. Okay. If you would, take your seat down here. Okay. Well, you have to be a registered voter to speak at the town meeting. Unless you're recognized by the body. Does the meeting wish to recognize the gentleman that was speaking? Yes. Okay, all right. Well, hold on. It's What's your name again?
Normington, Turner Road, Townsend, also appointed by the Board of Selectmen, not only to the fire department, where I'm a firefighter, but also to a committee within town. And as I said, I pay taxes to this town as much as everyone else in this room does. Therefore, as I pointed out, we all, as taxpayers, have a moral obligation to pay the employees of this town their fair wages. We don't ask the police officers to work for money that they raised at bake sales. We don't ask the town administrator to work for money that he raises by selling things out of the trunk of his car. We shouldn't do the same with the Recreation Committee.
Maintain the decorum of the hall, please.
I do have one question to ask the fire chief.
Could I have your name again?
My name's Todd Melanson, Clement Road, and I
Okay.
agree with Sue that we should be level-funded budget, and I understand the times we're in. But having to deal with the multiple of municipalities, is anyone aware of the amount of drug use and things that are happening? You're talking about our kids, they don't have much to do as is now. My concern is by further reducing the budget and things like that, if we can't fund it like they would like, could we reduce what we're talking about for the matrix? I think it's idiotic that you're requiring them to do the matrix for part-time teenage kids. Our kids can't find jobs in this town anyways, and you're making it tougher for someone to hire them. That you, for some reason, require the town's physician to, or to do a physical specific to the town that a licensed physician can do, I think is kind of silly. If the school can accept my son's physical from his primary care to play sports in town, why can't the primary care take care of the physicals for the employees of the rec department? I can't support the increase because of the budget situation we are in. I understand. I think you need to keep asking for it year after year because it was part of the budget and you are a town employee. But the cost of treating and preventing opiate use in communities, can the chief maybe give us an idea of what that costs or what it costs the department to have Narcan and things like that available? And so you can put that in some sort of use or context and when you're talking about the overall budget. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ms. Hoff?
Hi there, Emmy Hoff. I'm on North End Road. And I can speak to this obviously personally, as this is the director's position and I currently hold that. Our primary point on this is that I am the only town employee. If you're looking at funds and stabilization and what have you, my funds should come out of, the director's funds should come out where all the other employee funds are coming out. We talked about Council of Aging, we talked about the Senior Center, we talked about the library, all of which have buildings, all of which have multiple staff members, all of which have storage and supplies, office equipment, phones, emails set up by the town, none of which Townsend Recreation has. On what I get paid between 15 and 19 hours a week. I work approximately 45. My family probably puts in an additional anywhere from 5 to 20 hours as a collective per week. We do this on our own because we love this town and we have children here. We also have seniors here as a family. Recreation is vital to the safety, the creativity, the education of this town. It is not a throwaway. And if it is not funded as a salaried position, soon there will not be a Townsend Recreation. And that will be one less place that our families, our children, and our elders can have recreation, inspiration, and education. Thank you.
Okay, comments? Comments come on the budget. Mr. McNabb.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This issue is not that, from my perspective, it's not that we aren't sympathetic to the situation. The fact is, our school assessment went up by such a large amount, we had to be even and prioritize across the board. This is something I personally want to bring up in the future as an issue so that we can try and resolve this. This year just is not the year to do it.
All right. The gentleman by the microphone, if you, I take it that that's your reason for standing there, but what's your name?
Yes, my name is Mike Foster from 59 Ash Street. Somebody asked about the past with the Rec Commission. I can tell you that. So I was on the Rec Commission for 10 years when it almost went out of business because there weren't even 3 commissioners. Program ran on a hope and a prayer. Nobody really got rich working for the rec department. We had no budget at all. The director, anybody, any of the teenagers that worked there, no money for supplies, nothing. We depended on donations from the parents when they signed them up. And because the parents felt they needed the program so much, and the kids looked forward to it, and it does occupy a lot of their time, so that they may be not getting in trouble, or not just sitting there with their neck down playing a video game. They're outside doing supervised activities, doing creative arts and crafts activities, and it's a program that the kids look forward to every year, the parents need it, and there isn't any alternative. And they've already carried the salary for a number of years because of the revolving account. I was on the commission when we argued for the revolving account. And it was only to handle the revenues from all the trips we ran. The monster trucks, the Red Sox, whatever. We had no way of handling the money. And that's where the money came from. We just went to break even on all our activities. We figured the cost of the tickets, the cost of the bus, and said, that's what we need. And hoped everybody paid that showed up to go. So these people have already gone for years with it taken out of the budget. I think it's about time it goes back in the budget. And it's only $20,000.
All right. Mr. Clark.
I am a new selectman to this board that I'm privileged to be here with. I have not been part of this budget process, so I won't comment about what they've done because during this difficult time, they've worked very hard, all of them, including Mr. Sheehan, to try to balance the budget. So I think it's unfair for me to make comments. But the comment I will make to the people of the Recreation Department and to the seniors, and I believe that, I won't speak for them, but I believe Carolyn and Colin are dedicated to those two groups. I will not let you be forgotten next year. They're in difficult situations now trying to balance this budget, and so it's not for me to comment. They've worked hard to get here. But I know you've been waiting a long time, but you will not be forgotten next year. That's all I'll say. And I respect the hard work that the board here has done to get us this balanced budget. But to the seniors and to the children, you are our future, and the seniors built this town. I will not, and I believe these two people here, I won't speak for them, are committed to you. So I'm taking notice that you want something to be done in the future. But I just think it's disrespectful to all the hard work they put into balance this budget to say anything more at this time. Thank you.
Move the question.
Okay, motion's been made to move the question and seconded. This requires a two-thirds vote. We'll cut off debate on the motion to amend the recreation budget. There's no debate.
Point of order. I did ask a question of the chief, and I never got an answer when I was up at the mic about the cost of opiate, of what it costs the town emergency services.
I think the matter before the board, the meeting right now is to move the question. If people want to hear more, then you can ask your question.
Part of the original debate?
Well, I'm sorry, sir. The motion's been made to move the question. We're going to vote on that. If the motion doesn't carry, then you can ask your question. Sometimes not every single question gets answered. You have to ask again. Before you could ask it again, someone moved the question. So that's what we're going to vote on now. All those who want to move the question, cutting off debate, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. So we are going to vote on the motion to amend the budget for the Recreation Commission in the amount, by adding the amount of $20,400. We'll do that first, and then we'll vote on the whole culture and recreation amount. So, all those in favor of adding $20,400 to the recreation budget, please say aye.
Aye.
What's your point of order?
There's no, in the amended proposal, there's no source of financing. Where's it coming from? Where it's coming from. Can somebody read the amendment? The amendment to this proposal?
I think we did have the amendment. The funds, where the funds are not coming from, it was not identified. I don't know if that can be dealt with later, or Mrs. Smart.
Like I said earlier, $59,971 is coming out of stabilization. So if this $21,000 was approved, or close to it, that additional amount would have to come out of stabilization as well. So it would bring it up to about $79,000.
No,
It'll be in the budget article that I read when the budget's passed, when the budget's done.
So there would be a separate vote on the amounts taken from stabilization, which would include any changes to the budget. Is that correct? That's how it's done. Okay. All right. So we'll try that again. Motion is to amend the recreation budget by adding $20,400. All those in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. I think we're going to have to count this one rather than try that again. Counters, would you come forward, please? All right. All those in favor of adding the $20,400 to the recreation budget, please stand, voting aye. I don't have a chair, so I can't. I don't know what they're doing with me.
Mr. Moderator, what are we voting on again?
We're voting on the motion to amend the recreation budget to add $20,400 to the recreation budget.
Thank you.
All those who would like to vote no on the amendment to add $20,400 to recreation and budget, please stand.
No voters, please stand up again.
No on this section, please stand and do the left now. All right, thank you, everyone. The vote is 67 aye, 57 no. So,
Can't hear you.
all right, try that again. The vote is in favor of the motion to amend 67 votes. Those opposed is 57, so the motion does carry. Okay, that brings us back to Culture and Recreation. Is there any other item that needs to be discussed? And I presume that will change the bottom line for Culture and Recreation by $20,400 to $273,600. $727. That math correct? Okay. All right. On culture and recreation then, all those, I think we're ready to vote. Is there any other questions on the other items? Okay, I think we're ready to vote on culture and recreation. And the amount is $273,727. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Okay. Now I believe we're at debt service. Total amount for the debt service is $432,533. Is there anything to be said? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the amount of $432,533 debt service, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. It's unanimous. On insurance, the amount for insurance for the town is $2,004,345. Anything to be said? Excuse me. Anything to be said? Not seeing any. I believe we're ready to vote. All those in favor of $2,004,345 under insurance, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. It's unanimous. Now, I believe that brings us to the grand total. And I think for form's sake, we typically will vote this amount, but we need a corrected amount. Mr. Sheehan?
Mr. Moderator, the raise and appropriate amount remains the same, $18,649,533. The stabilization amount changes to $80,371. And the total is $18,729,904. $18,729,904.
Double check with town council. Is that a 2/3 vote? Okay. So in this motion, we're not only approving the budget, we're approving taking that additional money that was voted with the amendment from stabilization. If we're to do that without separate votes, we need a 2/3 vote. So I am going to presume people would want to just take one vote. Is there anybody opposed to that? All right. All right, so the motion is to basically approve the budget for the total amount of $18,729,904 and taking the $20,400 from stabilization. All those in favor of the budget as proposed, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. I'm going to have to ask one more time on that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it by more than 2/3. Okay. That brings us to Article 23. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted to supplement the appropriation made under Article 22 for curbside solid waste collection, such appropriation to be contingent on the passage of an override pursuant to Proposition 2 1/2, so called, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Appears to be no motion.
Board of Selectmen recommended it.
Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Moderator, I believe that Mr. Lecquier from the Board of Health was going to read this article. I don't see him here, so.
could the selectmen have a comment on what happens if we don't vote anything here? Mrs. Smart?
Mr. Moderator, I move that we take no action on Article 23.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made to take no action on Article 23, and seconded. All those, any debate, any discussion? It seems we're ready to vote. Sorry, up in the back. Mrs. Sellers?
Carolyn Sellers, West Meadow Road. I was just wondering, I heard talk about toters, recycling toters. I guess, I thought this was only part, what we did in the budget was part of it, and this is part 2. And now I'm hearing take no action. It's almost like a bait and switch sort of thing. And I'm wondering what it is that we were expecting to be voting on and what that would provide our town, so we, as the town body, can decide whether we think it's worth going for an override to do that. So I'd just like a discussion and explanation.
Okay, question comes on the motion. Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Carolyn, the proposal from the Board of Health was not provided to the board or to me. There was a conversation last Thursday between Mr. Lequire and the Finance Committee, and what I gathered out of that meeting is that the additional funding for solid waste would have paid for a recycling toter for every household, a trash toter for every household, additional collection dates for bulky items like refrigerators and mattresses and things like that, as well as hazardous waste collection moving from Devon's to some undefined terms in Townsend. We didn't see anything detailed as a result of that, and so this Article 23 was put on as a supplement to what was approved under the operating budget in Article 22.
Comments come on the article. Mrs. Schifrin.
Yes. Are we supposed to have a copy of that article in our packet? I'm not finding Article 23. Somebody else finding it?
It's in the warrant.
It's on page 6.
In the green packet, Lori, on page 6 of the warrant.
Okay, comments come on Article 23 of the annual town meeting. Anything further to be said? Ms. Messing.
Move the question.
Okay. If no one has anything more to say, we can vote without voting about voting. So it seems there's nothing further to be said, so I'm going to ask for a vote on Article 23. All those in favor of taking no action on Article 23, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, unanimous, taking no action on Article 23, but thank you, Mrs. Messing, for helping us move things along. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum to be inserted to operate the water department for the fiscal year 2016, and that an amount to be inserted of this sum come from Water Enterprise Fund revenues, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that another amount to be inserted of this sum be appropriated in the general fund and funded from enterprise revenues, or take any other action in relation thereto. Mr. Rayfuse.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $851,995 to operate the water department for the fiscal year 2016, and that $654,131 of this sum come from Water Enterprise Fund revenues, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that $197,864 of this sum be appropriated into the general fund and funded from enterprise revenues.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 24. Is there anything to be said? Do you want to do that, Paul?
Yep. The first amount is $851,995. Second was $654,131. And the last was $197,864.
Okay, thank you. All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said on Article 24? It appears to be none. Ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 24, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Oh, okay. That's time. Okay. We're ready, folks, to resume. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, as amended, and as appropriated in this warrant, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the salaries and compensation of the town clerk as provided by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108A, as amended and appropriated in this warrant, and to raise and appropriate longevity for the town clerk in the amount of $600.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? All right. Doesn't appear to be any debate. Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 25, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's the chair is in doubt on that. I'm going to try one more time. All those in favor of Article 25, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. All right, that passes by majority vote. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum to be inserted to purchase and remove the building on a parcel of land known as American Legion, Miller, Terrell, Post 199, located at 458 Main Street, containing 0.3 acres, more or less.
Mr. Moderator?
Or take any action in relation thereto. Chief?
On behalf of
I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. As described in being Assessor's Map 47, Block 47, Lot 0, for the purpose of building a new West Townsend Fire Station to replace the existing building, and as funding therefor authorize the Treasurer with approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow said sum and issue bonds and notes therefore, or take any other action in relation thereto. Now, Chief.
Mr. Moderator, on behalf of the Fire Station Committee and the Fire Department, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $159,000 to purchase and remove the building on a parcel of land known as the American Legion, Miller, Terrell, Post 199, located at 458 Main Street, containing 0.3 acres, more or less, and described and being Assessor's Map 47, Block 47, Lot 0, for the purpose of building a new West Townsend Fire Station to replace the existing building and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7 of the General Laws, and pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes to the town therefore.
Motion's been made and seconded on Article 26. I'm sorry, yeah, 26. This involves the purchase of land and borrowing, so I believe it does require a 2/3 vote. Is there anything to be said? Chief.
Mr. Moderator, 1 year ago I had the opportunity to be here as a newly hired chief, but I had not started in my new role as Chief Klein was going out. So I had the opportunity to sit here in the audience. Nobody knew whether I was the oncoming or incoming chief, but the opportunity to sit back and listen to what everybody had to say, the comments of the taxpayers about the proposed station last year. I took that as an opportunity to learn what the taxpayers, the voters wanted, and what I heard was that the proposed project was too expensive, the location wasn't ideal, there was some concern with closing stations and no longer having a station in West Townsend. So I took that information, as did the committee, and refocused our efforts into incorporating those wants, needs, and desires. We returned to a three fire station fire protection strategy, which has been the fire protection strategy for the last 140 years for the town of Townsend, having a station in each of the 3 villages. We were fortunate to have an anonymous donor step up and donate the central station, which is under construction at this time. So we were able to then focus our efforts on the west station as the harbor station was built in 2004. The committee was diligent in to try to get the most affordable option for the taxpayers. The property currently there is about 1/4 of an acre and a 140-year-old fire station that needs to be replaced. To do that, we propose, as read in the article, that we purchase the Legion property. And then in the next warrant, you'll see, contingent on passing this warrant, Article 26, we propose that we then act on buying a fire station or building a fire station on that proposed lot.
Right. Thank you, Chief. Comments come on the motion for Article 26. Is there any further discussion? Appears we're ready to vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Sellers. If you folks are in the back, you've really got to wave your hand. I cannot see you in the back row.
I guess I have a question where the money's coming from. It seems to me that this should maybe be a package, these 2 articles, because if we don't approve the $1 million, why are we going to be tearing down these buildings? And, it seems like that they should be a package. I'd like to see some understanding of, is this going to require a Proposition 2.5 override to come up with this $1 million? I would think it probably does, doesn't it?
Question comes on the motion as to whether this, I don't believe this article requires a Prop
This doesn't, but the next one does, and it seems like it seems weird to me to be destroying 2 historic buildings if we don't, we're giving them the authority to destroy 2 historic buildings and cut down an elm tree that has lived longer than any other elm tree in Townsend, right, or the country pretty much, by doing this without knowing whether we even have a project.
Question comes on the motion. Mr. Sheehan.
Carolyn, with respect to both Article 26 and 27, at this time, the board has voted not to seek a debt exclusion under Proposition 2.5 for this project. I believe, I'll let the chief correct me if I misspeak on this. It was the desire of the Fire Station Building Committee to separate the purchase from the construction, so that if the construction didn't go through but the purchase did, they would still have land on which to pursue a station in the future. But at this point, we think that the debt service can be managed within the operating budget. The fact that we're not bringing it forward now as a debt exclusion doesn't preclude us from doing so in the future if we think that that makes sense. But at this point, we think that we can manage it within the levy.
Question and answer comes on the motion, and Mrs. Sellers.
So I just heard a little while ago that we couldn't pay our senior center staff, our library staff, because we didn't have the money for that, but somehow we can wrangle the money to pay for a new fire station without bringing it to the voters. It just seems, it seems like we have choices to make in town, and we aren't being provided all the information that we need to be making our choices, because we're being told we're really poor, we don't have any money, we can't do anything else here, but now we can handle $1 million debt out of our operating budget. So please explain.
Mr. Sheehan.
Fair question. The issue that we have in fiscal 16 with respect to funding for the Council on Aging, the Library, and the Recreation Department, and a number of other departments that sought additional funding, are in a way unrelated to the fire station project. By the time this project is built and we actually do the permanent financing for it, we'll have debt coming off the books that we think we'll be able to manage the additional debt that comes on for this project. We estimate that the annual debt service for this project, depending on how it's structured, whether it's 20 years or 30 years, and obviously depending on what the rates are, will be somewhere in the order of $50,000 to $70,000 a year. We think that we can manage that by the time this comes on, which would probably be fiscal 17 or maybe even fiscal 18.
Comments come on the motion. Is there further? Mrs. Stonefield? Mrs. Stonefield, could you use the mic so everyone could hear?
Mr. Moderator, I would like to move that we consider Article 27 prior to Article 26 because of the reasons that Carolyn suggested. And I move that. Hope somebody will second it. Thank you.
Okay, it's a motion to take the articles out of order. I believe we can do that if the meeting decides to do so. So the motion has been made and seconded to take Article 27 and vote on Article 27 before voting on Article 26. Is there anything to be said about transposing those motions? Mr. King?
Can I ask if there's like other people interested in the Legion Hall? Is there a reason why we would have to purchase the property now or close down the road? Are they actually
What's your point of order? I think your point of order is well taken. So what we have right now is whether or not we're going to take these items out of order. Unless you want to speak to that point, I think we're ready to vote. Okay, so all those who would like to take Article 27 prior to voting on Article 26, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. Okay. I'm going to try it one more time. Those who do want to take Article 27 first, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. Okay, I believe the ayes have it. So we will move to Article 27. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $1 million to design and construct a new West Townsend Fire Station located at 458 and 460 Main Street, and as funding therefore to authorize the treasurer with the approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow said sum and issue bonds and notes therefore, said action to be contingent on the passage of the previous article or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Chief.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1 million to design and construct the new West Townsend Fire Station located at 458 and 460 Main Street, and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under the pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7 of the general laws, pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes to the town therefore.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded on Article 27. Is there anything to be said? Mr. Spofford.
Steve Spofford, 312 Main Street. How can we vote for a fire station on property we haven't even bought yet?
I believe that's what you just decided to do, so, Chief, do you want to speak to that?
I can't speak on behalf of the Legion, but the reason it was separated, and we decided, the committee recommended to the Board of Selectmen, and the Selectmen agreed, that, to put it this way, is we didn't want to lose the opportunity to buy the property and have it in a package in case the voters were not in favor of $1 million expenditure. Therefore, we could take advantage of the property and not build a station, and gave the taxpayers the option to do one or both.
Okay, all right. Did everyone hear that? Okay. Chief, could you speak a little closer to the mic? I know it's...
Okay, the committee, the Fire Station Committee, recommended to the selectmen that we separate these into two warrants in fear of losing the property. I can't speak on behalf of the Legion, but we do have a signed purchase and sales agreement that's contingent on this passing with them. And we didn't want to lose the opportunity to get the property in case the taxpayers were not willing to fund the $1 million. So therefore, we separated them out to give you the option to purchase just the property, or the property and the station, or neither. So we separated it for your benefit so you could choose.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Rahala, did you have a...
I would move that we waive the rule limiting discussion to the article in front of the floor, and we discuss Article 26 and 27 together so we can go home sometime.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think that's a judicious use of our time. If there's no objection to that, is there any objection to doing that? No. Okay. All right. Going on then, we're discussing both Articles 26 and 27 in this discussion. Is there anything to be said? Mrs. Schifrin.
I'd like to speak in favor of the motion to purchase the property while we still have that opportunity to do that. And when we have the opportunity and it is makes financial sense to go ahead and build the property, that we do it then. And for that, I agree with the way the articles had been presented, and that is to vote for 26 first and 27 after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further to be said?
Second.
Well, I'm going to let Mr. Melanson speak.
We talk a lot about planning for the future and stuff like that. A lot of the times, it seems we have mechanical issues and things like that. The vehicles we have now, from what I understand, do not fit well or at all in the stations that we have now. You're spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on a piece of equipment. To not be able to properly store it, operate it, take care of it, doesn't make sense to me in the long run. So I would at least move that we would be in favor of buying the property if we don't go forward it. They've said that they think that they can fit it under debt service because debt service is coming off. I trust them on that. So it makes sense to me to protect what we currently have so that we don't have to increase our maintenance costs or potentially buy another vehicle, so that they properly fit into buildings so you don't have to manipulate what's on it. I don't want them having to take stuff off an engine to put it in a building so that when they have to leave, they got to put it back on. So it's twofold. Municipal finance, you're all based, all our our budget is based on our property taxes in Townsend, unfortunately. Based on the two primary principles that you maintain services, and the two main ones that everybody looks at in property is schools and emergency services. We would like it to include all the other ones, but those are the two primary ones you look at. Those are the ones I usually speak out for, and I guess I'm doing so again. So I'm in speaking, I guess, in favor of both, but for those reasons. Thank you.
Okay. Questions come on the article. There's a motion to move the question?
Second.
All right. All right. Then we are voting on Article 27 first.
Voting to move the question.
Well, right. Just to clarify that this is the article that we're moving the question on, is Article 27. So, all those in favor of moving the question on Article 27, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it by 2/3. Therefore, we will vote now on Article 27. This article, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Riley, requires a 2/3 vote? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion on Article 27, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. I think that we'll try that one more time. All those in favor of Article 27, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Counters, please come forward. Okay, all those in favor? Hang on, folks, let's get together. All right, all those in favor of Article 27, please stand to be counted.
That's record.
15, 16, 17.
Please remain standing until the vote is finished, please.
Oh, I'm not either. I have 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Confusion. You weren't here. So you don't know what you voted on. So you get somebody else to answer. Yeah. We voted for it. All right, everyone, have a seat, and we'll count the noes. Everyone, please be seated. And I will ask for a count of all those who wish to vote in opposition to Article 27. Please stand. All right, folks, we're ready to proceed. The vote is those in favor of Article 27, 90. Those opposed, 23. So the motion does pass by 2/3 majority. That brings us to Article 26. I'll read it again. Article 26 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $159,000 to purchase and remove the building on a parcel of land known as American Legion, Miller Terrell Post 199, located at 458 Main Street, containing .3 acres, more or less, as described, and being Assessors Map 47, Block 47, Lot 0, for the purpose of building a new West Townsend Fire Station to replace the existing building, and as funding, therefore, to authorize the treasurer, with approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow said sum and issue bonds and notes, therefore, or take any action in relation thereto. Chief, do you mind? Read it again.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $159,000 to purchase and remove the building on a parcel of land known as the American Legion, Miller Terrell Post 199, located at 458 Main Street, containing .3 acres, more or less, described as being Assessors Map 47, Block 47, Lot 0, for the purpose of building a West Townsend Fire Station to replace the existing building and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under pursuant of Chapter 44, Section 7, General Laws, pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes to the town therefore.
For a second? Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded on Article 26. Is there anything to be said? It appears we're ready to vote. No, not almost. Mrs. Stonefield.
Oh, thank you. I notice it says to remove the building. It was read, move the building, and I'd like to know what would happen to the building. It is a historic building. The other point I have, it's only .3 acres, and the amount of land that's already next to it that will be used is small. Are we looking forward enough? and hopefully I can get some answers.
All right, question comes on the motion. Is there any, all right, ma'am?
Veronica Kell, 68 Meadow Road. I guess my question is, going along with that, if the proposed pipeline goes through town, has there been any thought in this new construction about what might be required by safety services? And is what's being planned enough? Is the size of the lot enough? Or is this fire station maybe going to be somewhere else completely in West Townsend? That's it.
Question comes on the motion. Is there anyone that can respond to those questions? Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The first question, I'm not that quick to be able to remember all the questions, so if you have to remind me, feel free. The chairman of the Historic Commission is, I believe, out in the hallway, and I would call upon him to speak on the historic district. But to my best of my understanding and the committee's understanding is we found no information indicating that either of the buildings is registered as historic. It is in the district, but they picked and chose each building. So we're still researching that, and we will follow whatever process needs to take place in the research, as well as going to the historic commission if need be. As far as the pipeline, as previously stated, our intent is to remain with the three fire station fire protection strategy that's worked for us for 140 years, which meets the NFPA standards and that's the goal. Is the pipeline would have no impact on that. What we want to do is maintain our response time standards to the residents of West Townsend.
Okay, comments come on the motion. I think there was one other part to Mr. Stonefield's question about the future needs of the department.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, may I answer that as well? The current lot that the fire station is on is 0.26 acres and currently shares the septic with the Legion. The Legion building is 0.3 acres, so the purchase of this building will give us a whopping 0.56 acres, which the building committee has looked at, and to put a two-bay station to meet the modern standards and the needs of the station, we need to acquire that property, and it will be sufficient to put the right size or the proposed size building on that lot.
Comments come on the article. Mr. Spofford?
I defer to Rich. Go ahead. I'll defer.
Defer?
To Rich.
Okay. Mr. Hanks?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I do just want to let everybody know that the Legion Hall is part of the historic district. It's not just in the district. It is a registered building within the district, just so that you're aware of that. And so I'm not saying it couldn't be taken down. It's just that there would be a process that had to be followed with the state.
All right. Comments come on the motion that apart from voting this, there are some other requirements before the building could be removed. Mr. McNabb. I'm sorry, Steve.
That's okay.
Colin, if you'd wait, Steve.
Go ahead, Colin. Go ahead.
All right, you're going to defer again?
Yeah.
All right, you're next. Mr. McNabb.
Mr. Moderator, prior to the town meeting, the chair of the Historic Zone Commission asked that for a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and their committee, I'm assuming for this purpose. Is that true, Mr. Cowpey? Yeah. So that is, the purpose is so we are following procedure with regards to the historic nature of the building, or both buildings.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
John.
Mr. Spofford.
I just want to remind people that we've already spent $1 million to build a fire station on ground, and we're going to have to do something with the building itself. It has to disappear somewhere. I say we pass this amendment.
All right. I heard a faint motion to move the question. Is there a motion? All right. I'm going to defer to Mr. Rahala. Do I need someone to specifically get up and say that? All right. Someone actually stand. Mr. Stonefield, I can always count on you. All right. And the motion's been made and seconded to move the question. This will cut off debate on Article 26. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. The ayes have it by 2/3. So we are prepared now to vote on Article 26. All those in favor of voting in favor of Article 26, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. I believe that is more than 2/3 vote in favor. So I will so declare that. And the article passes by more than 2/3. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury such sums that may be necessary to fund capital improvements and/or capital equipment for fiscal year 2016, pursuant to a detailed budget to be presented to the town meeting totaling amount to be inserted or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. McNabb.
if everyone will turn to the last page in their packet, that's related to this motion. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote the following sums totaling $183,000 to pay the costs of various capital improvements and/or capital equipment for fiscal year 2016 as set forth in the detailed capital budget presented to this town meeting, and to meet this appropriation as follows. Appropriate from Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $75,000. Appropriate from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation the sum of $54,000. Appropriate from Water Department retained earnings the sum of $54,000.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Not seeing any. Appears we're ready to vote. This does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 28, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Right. The ayes have it by more than 2/3. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to amend the code of the town of Townsend, Chapter 44, Facilities Maintenance Department, to include fire EMS buildings within the Facilities Maintenance Department, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mrs. Smart.
I would move that Section 44-3B of the Code of the Town of Townsend be amended by inserting the words "fire EMS buildings" into the first sentence, so that the sentence shall read, "As of July 1st, 2009, all custodial and cleaning personnel working in any town facility, including but not limited to the Town Hall, Police Station, fire EMS buildings, and library, shall be transferred to the Facilities Maintenance Department."
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Appears to be none. We're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 29, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. It's unanimous. Article 30, to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 38A, that the tax collector shall collect under the title of Town Collector all accounts due to the town, and shall have the powers and remedies set forth therein, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 38A, that the tax collector shall collect under the title of Town Collector all accounts due to the town, and shall have the powers and the remedies set forth therein.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. On Article 30, is there anything to be said? I don't see any, so it appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 30, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous.
Mr. Moderator, I move that we dissolve town meeting.
Motion's been made to dissolve town meeting and seconded. Sir?
Yeah, Dave Carlson, 78 West Elm Street. It's off of Warman here, and we don't want to get going. But I'd like to revisit Article 23 just a little bit longer. Is that possible?
I'm going to defer to the meeting. The motion's been made and seconded to dissolve the town meeting. If you've been a little quicker to make the motion, but...
Apparently, there's some additional information available that might be pursuant to that article.
What I think the procedure here would be, if people want to reconsider Article 23, they can vote to not dissolve the town meeting, and we can take up that motion.
Thank you.
All right? Does everyone understand? The gentleman wanted to revisit or reconsider Article 23, which had to do with the Board of Health.
Revisit.
Well, that's what I was just getting to. If you vote to dissolve the meeting, you will not reconsider. If you don't vote to dissolve the meeting, then that will be before you. So, all those in favor of dissolving the meeting, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. And the ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Meeting is dissolved.
Sorry.